Abba, we have eaten and we're satisfied, and we thank you for the land. And we thank you for the land in Yeshua's name. Amen.
And this is
All right, so here's your question. Your questionnaire is question number 1. The only question is, how many mitzvot, according to Rambam, are in this Torah portion?
These formulas are getting started.
Okay, so 2 and 6. Why is it 2 and 6, 5 and 9, 7, 7, 7, 11? Because there's 2. It's the number of mitzvot in each portion. So is it 2 in Matot and 6 in Masei, or is it 5 in Matot and 9 in Masei, 7 in 7, or 7 in Matot and 11 in Masei?
Do we get a coffee card if we answer correctly?
Except I want one from the new scooters.
Okay.
I saw the advertisement from them that came in.
Well,
Came in the
I
mail.
didn't catch on that was a double portion today because it should have hit me when I saw the Matto and the Masei with a line in between, but Tribe's Journey. Anyway, I want to say that it's
B. I'm pretty dang sure that it's one of those up there.
I'm thinking it's A.
What an astute
Okay.
observation.
So 1 vote for A, 1 vote for B, and
One for all of them.
1 for all of the above.
You know, he should have said 7.
Or maybe I should say any of the above.
Any of the above. Well, then you're going to be right pretty much every time, I think. All right. So no one guessed D. So that's good. That's out.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
But
A's gone.
B is gone.
Is this going to be another C job?
Probably. Always is.
Nope.
Ah. Really? I thought there was more than 2 in that first one.
It could be counted in other places, but here are the 2 that are listed.
Not to break one's word. Observation of the vows.
So a nullification of vows is when you can, when you can, and who can.
Poor
You know,
guy is stuck
that
in his
whole-
vows. No way out.
Man, this stuff's serious. Very serious. But I got to think, I said, the Lord left women an out,
Yeah, sort of.
but the men didn't get an out.
No.
Unless Messiah does it for you. There was no out. If a man made a vow, that's just it. Done.
The woman could come to the man and say, "Oh, please, honey, please, I made a stupid vow. Won't you get me out of this?"
As long as it's on the day I heard it. Yes.
I just told you today. I made it 3 weeks ago.
It's okay. I just heard it. Guess what? No good. But yeah, the guy doesn't get one.
Well, I think I may have at least one slide that talks about it, but the rabbis have taken the opinion that Pinchas could have annulled a vow.
Really.
And so that's their rabbinic opinion is that way, that in their opinion, they can nullify, that there are certain people that could have nullified vows.
Hmm.
We don't really see that in scripture. I agree with that.
I've never seen it.
No, it's not there. Okay, so with Masei, there are 6, and the Levitical cities is the first one, which you have to have. For Levitical cities, you have to have Levites working as Levites. You have to have the land where those
Right.
cities are.
Yeah.
A high priest.
A high priest, functioning high priest. And verse 6 says there are 6 cities, and then when you'll be able to add 42 additional ones, which is kind of a longer, or the larger. I think the 42 cities would be in the larger part of Israel. In other words, from the Wadi of Egypt to the Euphrates, you get 42. But 42 is a recurring theme from this Torah portion.
Really?
So the not to execute guilty without trial comes from 35:12. So they shall be cities of refuge for you from the revenger, and the one who killed someone is not to die until he stands before the congregation in right ruling or in judgment. To protect inadvertent manslaughter in the city of refuge. So the person who killed someone without malice or intent gets to go to the city of refuge, but doesn't apply to the murderer.
He would have to be tried for that first, wouldn't he?
Possibly. So this doesn't actually say that. It says,
I mean, to pronounce him guilty of being a murderer or accident.
well, it says, the congregation shall rescue the one who killed someone from the hand of the avenger of blood, and the congregation shall return him to the city of refuge where he had fled, and he shall remain there until the death of the high priest was anointed with the set-apart oil.
So maybe he's tried at the death.
It could
or
be.
after the death.
Yeah. Well,
No,
I think that you don't get to go there without being perhaps
Tried.
tried separately as being found guilty of, I guess, manslaughter versus murder. So, I know one individual in Lawton who was found guilty of manslaughter, but was given a 20-year sentence, which is pretty significant, I think, in terms of amount of time.
that's,
And so one of the things that, I don't know how much we do know that Israel had lost the ability to try people on a death penalty offense during the Roman times.
yeah.
And certainly with the priesthood being bought and sold on an annual basis,
Mhm.
you never get a high priest who died in office. So even if they had Levitical cities in place, it would have been nullified by the Roman occupation, because it would not have been able to
Flee there.
flee there, because, well, it wouldn't, I mean, there would never be a time when the high priest would die, unless the high priest died in the 1 year that he had of his high priesthood. When they would buy it for a year, maybe
The
two at a
fact that
time.
he wasn't a legit one have anything to do with anything? No.
Well, I mean, how would you still even apply it, though? If there's a high priest that wasn't legitimate, when does the time period end that you need to be in the city? It doesn't seem to me that the Levitical cities, I think, really, I've not seen evidence of use in the Second Temple period. Although it may have been used. I haven't found any reference to it being something that was done after return from Babylon. I certainly could be wrong.
I would think you would consider a priest that wasn't really a priest, that had bought paid for,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, and the same as an era where there are no priests.
But I mean, how would you end the time period he's got to be in the city of refuge if there isn't a priest? It would be never.
It'd
be never. There would no. It'd be. Oh, I
like
see.
we are now,
Yeah.
like the Romans do.
Yeah, because I think the Romans took away the ability to try somebody for a death penalty offense. They've taken that upon themselves, and you guys can't do it anymore. That's why it was eventually sent to Pilate for Yeshua's execution. And even though Paul was part of a stoning, it wasn't really it wasn't something that the Romans authorized them to do. It was against Roman law.
They got away with it.
Now, this is the title of this one is not to let a witness in a capital crime serve as a judge in the trial. Actually, as references 35:30, but when you read that, it says whoever kills someone has to be put to death as a murder by the mouth of witnesses. Only one witness does not bear witness against someone to die. So, the actual the operative passage would be no person shall be put to death on the testimony of one witness. And First Fruits' commentary is the sages understood the seemingly superfluous phrase as a prohibition against allowing a witness to also serve as a judge in a capital trial. A judge who was a witness to a murder would have to excuse himself from the bench. He could enter testimony as a witness, but could not either argue to defend or convict the accused. I don't have a problem with that statement in itself. I think that's a good idea to not let the judge in trial also be a witness, but I don't see it being directly derived from this passage. But there is a passage from it. I mean, there is something that is definitely workable or applicable. Would be the part B, but only one witness does not bear a witness against someone to die, or in other words, 2 witnesses are required for a death penalty judgment, which that is a Torah commandment in terms of the number of witnesses, at least 2. But how it's written on the larger on top as it's typically understood doesn't seem like it's quite right. Not to accept a ransom to save a murderer from a sentence, from 35:31, and take no ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, he shall certainly be put to death. And kind of the corollary is forbidden to accept a ransom to save someone who is banished from his sentence, from verse 32, and take no ransom for him who has fled to a city of refuge to return to dwell in the land before the death of the priest or high priest, which also makes sense, but it's referenced the city of refuge. You can't let someone leave the city of refuge until the death of the priest. This would be saying, I'm letting you go back because you're a better farmer. You need to get farming,
Pay your way out.
or pay your way out of it. Yeah, but you couldn't let him do that, and partly for his own protection. The city of refuge is not for punishment so much as protection, right? From the avenger of blood. Okay, so some words in this portion. The word matot is, in the slide I had it as tribes. It's more literally as staff, but could be understood to be a rod or a branch, a symbol of authority. We see the word neder in the Hebrew text. Neder is something like a vow. There's no true English equivalent. It's usually translated as vow. 2 categories: to prohibit something the Torah permits, or make an optional offering obligatory. So a neder essentially makes something the equivalent of a Torah commandment to the person making it. So, like for example, in the phrase, if Elohim does this, then I neder to do that. It's only binding on the person making that vow, or that neder statement. So, for example, like a Nazirite vow, it's not a Torah commandment to take a Nazirite vow, but if you take one, it's obligatory on you, the one who took the vow. So that would, to prohibit something the Torah permits. For example, does the Torah permit drinking grape juice or wine? For a non-vowed person, does the Torah permit drinking grape juice or wine? Yes.
For a non...
For just a general statement. Does the Torah prohibit or allow someone to drink grape juice or eat grapes?
It allows it.
It allows it. But if you take a Nazirite vow,
It's prohibited.
right, so in other words, it's prohibiting something, grapes, that the Torah permits. And in the optional offering obligatory means it's saying that if you do this, then I will do a sacrifice, something like that to that. So it's the optional offering is the other side of that. We also see the word shavua, which is oath, so vows and oath. An oath places an obligation on an individual. The word Isar, Yazer, and Gilead or Gilad are there. Pledge, helped, and rocky region. Some word definitions you see in this portion. Now, in the terms of vows and oath, as you said, we talked about a minute ago, it doesn't appear there's a way out for a man. In question, when these nedarim, or these vows, are made in haste and or the critical situation is passed, how often do we forget all that came out of our mouths? That's I think one of the things that you've heard the phrase, there are no atheists in foxholes. People often make that kind of a statement. If you get me through this, then I will do that. And really, it's kind of in the form of a vow, whether it's a vow or not. It makes that same kind of an idea of, if you do this, then I'll do that. And frequently, the I'll do that doesn't happen. There's a loud noise.
Let's go with fireworks.
So the reference of vows and daughters, wives, widows, and divorcees, is there a double standard here? Because daughters and wives can get out of a vow, whereas widows and divorcees cannot.
It's not a double standard because the man is the covering for the wife and the daughters. He is their covering.
Is it a double standard like what our society would call a double standard? And then, yeah, it's not an equal,
Mm-hmm.
how would I get the rest of equal application. So I don't think it's unjust. I mean, if God did it, then it was right.
Yeah, it's good attitude on that. So this is the passage we were talking about. This was a test question for your reading coffee thing today. How long does the husband or father have to annul the vow? Be kind of in both things. It's that day.
The day he hears it.
What if the wife or daughter is intent on keeping the vow her husband or father has annulled?
That would be a bad thing.
Well, even if she keeps it, the oath applies to, the annulment applies to if there's a consequences.
The obligation to do it. You can still do it, but there's no obligation if you fail to do it.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
She says, I'm going to do it anyway. Honey, that was a rash vow. See, it's a rash. A husband and a father can annul a vow of a wife and married daughter. Is this still in effect? Is it fair? Does this stand opposed to the new light, quote unquote, of this verse? There's neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free man, neither male nor female, for in union with the Messiah, Yeshua, you are all one.
Either male or female Democrat.
I think it's more Soch than Democrat, but anyway.
How does that fit in with
Bullshit.
the vows?
What?
How does that fit in with vows?
Well, because there's neither male nor female.
I don't think that's what the verse is referring to.
Well, what is the verse referring to then?
We are all one in Messiah. There is no difference in Messiah. So, in other words, we all have the same when it comes to the Messiah. We are all saved through him. This isn't referring to a vow and an oath.
Either male or female, no matter which one you are the bride of Yeshua.
Yes.
So Yeshua is the one who can nullify if he wants.
Is that what you're trying to say? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's talking about the body of Christ, not talking about vows.
No, I don't think it's talking about vows. I'm saying that an argument, there is those who argue that the nullification of vows has been nullified itself because there's no such thing as males or females anymore, or neither Jews nor Gentiles. But we know, think of it this way. This is in terms of precedence, not actuality. There are
Right.
still males and females,
Exactly.
And Jews and Gentiles.
and there's still Jews and Gentiles, and there's still slaves and free people.
Yes.
It's a matter of precedence. There's no difference in precedence in terms of being in Messiah.
Right.
But it's obvious there's still males and females, so you can't. It's not that there's no such thing as males and females anymore. It's that
Right.
it's that the precedence in Messiah isn't changed because of one's gender or one's DNA.
Right.
That's all.
Mr. Biden, Wayne's over here saying that there's a difference in male and female. Okay, I'll tell him.
I should say something like, "Watch out, Addie! There's someone sniffing your hair."
Oh, quick. We can't have that.
Then you say, "Mom, Mom, sniffing Joe, sniffing her hair." Vows and nothing. Yeah, this is some of the things in terms of rabbinic interpretation. Just so you know it, so you're aware that they're out there. This is from Archibald Commentary, so it's not something hidden. It's very widely read. The Torah chose to mention the leaders here because they had a special role to play in the matter of vows. For an individual expert, such as a tribal leader, such as has the authority to annul a vow or an oath. In the absence of such an expert, an ad hoc court of 3 laymen may make such a ruling. So says Rashi, based on Nedarim 2078a. So in the Talmud, there is a book of the Talmud called Nedarim, which we just learned that word Nadar means, or translates to something like vow. So there's a book in the Talmud that is on the subject of vows. That a tribunal of 3 may annul a vow is only alluded to in Scripture. It is a provision of the oral law transmitted to Moses at Sinai, according to Hagigah 1:8. The second topic of this passage is an oath. By means of an oath, one may either prohibit oneself or require oneself to perform an act. Conceptually, there is a great difference between a nader and an oath. A nader changes the status of the object. For example, if I have made an apple forbidden to myself, the apple has the status of forbidden food to me, and therefore I may not enjoy the apple. In contrast, an oath places an obligation only on the person. For example, if I've sworn to eat an apple, there is a new obligation upon me, but the halakhic status of the apple itself is unchanged.
Is that doublespeak?
No.
Okay.
It's just kind of weird for me. Sorry.
The connection to 10 words, this is out of Shemot 20, verse 7. This is from the the new JPS, the Union of Reformed Judaism translation. You shall not swear falsely by the name of the Eternal your God, for the Eternal will not clear when he swears falsely by his name. So there's a connection to the swearing falsely part of it, making a false swearing. In Deuteronomy, we see the same thing in chapter 23. You make a vow, the root word there is nadar, to the Eternal your God, do not put off fulfilling it, for the Eternal your God will require it of you, and you will have incurred guilt, whereas you incur no guilt if you refrain from vowing. You must fulfill what has crossed your lips and perform what you have voluntarily vowed to Eternal your God, having made the promise with your own mouth. So this seems pretty clear, and it's very much of a we're not going to go into this famous vow. Go to the Jephtha one. We're going to go past that. Past this. We can go to this. Because this passage in Matthew 5 is kind of interesting. The Torah allows vows and oaths. Is Yeshua now annulling the Torah when he says, let your yes be a simple yes, your no a simple no. But when you look at the passage out of Shem Tov, you see a very much of a parallel with the Deuteronomy chapter that we just read. It says, again, you have heard what was said of those long ago, you shall not swear by my name falsely. You shall return your oath. But I say to you, not to swear in vain in any matter, neither by heaven, because it is the throne of Elohim, nor by the earth, because of the footstool of his feet, nor by Jerusalem, because it is the eternal, or is the city of Elohim, nor by your head, for you are unable to make one hair white or black, but let your words be yes, yes, or no, no. Everything in addition to this is evil. And if you look at this passage with the passage in Deuteronomy read, I think there's it is basically one taken directly from Deuteronomy 23. So how is this different than the Greek version?
What about the Deuteronomy version?
I think the Deuteronomy kind of lines up with more along with the Greek text of Matthew than Shem Tov. But so what's the difference between the Greek text is that the phraseology, swear falsely by my name, but you shall return your oath. So he's not saying don't swear, but don't swear by my name falsely.
Yeah. Right.
Which, if you look at from this text, it definitely is lining up directly, with Deuteronomy 23. Gad and Reuben, there's an interesting parallel here. Okay, Gad and Reuben say, then they came near to him and said, "We will build here sheepfolds for our livestock and cities for our little ones." And Moses says, build yourselves cities for your little ones and sheepfolds for your sheep, and do what you have promised. So what's the difference between these two statements? Gad and Reuben, they're not what's their priority here? What is do they mention cities for little ones? What's their priority? The priority is sheepfolds
Sheepfolds.
and livestock.
Yeah.
Forget their wives and kids.
Well, but that's all part of providing for your wife and kids.
Well, but Moses lays it
They live
down
in
to them and
tents.
says, wait a minute, build yourselves sheepfolds for your livestock. No, he says build cities for your little ones, and then he says sheepfolds
I
for
see
your
what you're
livestock.
saying. Okay.
So it's the matter of emphasis. I mean, I'm not saying that sheepfolds are important to providing that, but the priority is the purpose is up front.
Their priority was the sheepfolds, and Moses said, no, it needs to be your little ones.
Yeah, this is good land. Okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's good.
According to Joshua 2, it took 7 years to conquer land and 7 more to divide it. So the warriors of Gad and Reuben did not return to the eastern side of the Jordan until 14 years later. So quite a while.
Wow. Boy, the kids have grown.
And I don't know if I have a slide covering this or not, but okay, there it is right here. Here's my thing. So what happened? What happened to Gad and Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh?
They went after.
They were the first ones taken in captivity by Assyrians.
Syria.
Remember, the Assyrians didn't take them all captivity at the same time.
Right.
It was in waves, so to speak, and this was the first one mentioned.
They
here.
were the ones at the entrance to the country.
They were up across the river, outside the country, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're on the other side.
So they would naturally be the first ones
Yep.
to
Mm-hmm.
be taken.
So everybody else liked those sheepfolds too.
And those cities.
Yeah, they were taken out of the country to Assyria. This is, at the time of this writing, that's where they said. This says they still were there.
Yeah.
The river of Gozan. Hala, Habor, Hara. Okay, so this is Mattot-Masei. See the word, let's see, Asei is the second word for the right, Elaine Asei. You see there, the mem,
Masei.
that's what it starts with, Masei. And it's, journeys, plural. Journeys of, it's in a construct form. So some key words in this, you have Masei, you have Ramesses, Sukkot, Etam, Pi-Hahiroth, Migdal. You may recognize, look at the word Migdal, tower. What other word can you recognize from that word?
From Migdal?
Yeah.
Megiddo?
I would say the word Gadol is embedded in that,
Gadol?
like in great or large, because it's a tower.
Yeah. Hagadol?
Yep. Pi-Hahiroth is partly Egyptian, partly Semitic. The House of Wells, this is according to the Fawcett Bible Dictionary. Watering place in the desert. Israelites marching from Ramesses eastward to Sukkot along the Old Canal and thence to Etam were ordered by God to change direction and go southward to Pi-Hahiroth at the west of the Bitter Lakes, close to Migdal. That's northwest side.
Well, I got a problem with that. Because it says along the old canal. That means it was in the northern side. And I mean closer to the way of the Philistines than it would have been the route that.
Well, this says go to, ordered by God to change the direction, go southward to Pi-Hahiroth. So Pi-Hahiroth is south.
There's a northern route that way, and then there's a southern route. I mean, a middle route. And the middle route is the one that I tend to stick with, because when they left Sukkot, it says they marched south first. If I'm not
They marched south
mistaken.
first?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, this is marching from Ramesses to Sukkot, and then they're heading south toward, then to Etam, and then going south toward Pi-Hahiroth. According to the reference on the slide, it's numbers 33, 7, and 8.
Let me see. 33?
Yeah.
I thought you'd go back to Exodus to see that.
This is the listing of the places, and the place where Pi-Hahiroth Is listed here from Numbers 33.
Okay, I'll check out 33 real quick, but right after I take a look at this. Did that right there. Right here.
Well, look at the end of Exodus 13.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, it says, chapter 13, verse 20, they traveled from Sukkot and set up in Etam at the edge of the desert. Adonai went ahead of them in a column of cloud during the daytime to lead them on their way, at night in a column of fire to give them light, lest they could travel both by day and by night. Neither the column of cloud by day nor the column of cloud by night went away from in front of the people. Adonai said to Moshe, tell the people in Israel to turn around and set up camp in front of Pi Hacherot, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal Zephon, opposite by the sea.
Yeah, that's along what people would call the Sea of Aqaba, I think. But it's back up here.
So I think Pi Hacherot
Journeyed
is,
from Sukkot and
Yeah.
camped at Etham, at the edge of the wilderness.
Yeah.
Well, I thought Etham was over and then down. I wish we had a map here. I could show you. I don't have a map in mind anymore.
turn to the book of maps, chapter 17.
Book of Maps.
If you don't have one,
Not in this one. Yeah, not in here. Let me go look at Numbers 33. I'm not trying to be disagreeable or nothing. I'm just trying to, I guess because I'd seen, what's the name of that movie?
Yeah. we all watched it.
Yeah, it's just,
No. Mom
See,
has trouble with her neck,
33.
so he ever said to congratulate.
they moved from Etham and turned back to Piharoth, which
Well,
is
there's
east
a
of,
lot of things in the stops
yeah.
that are, the dots on the map are questionable where they are.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, it just, I know the way of the Philistines was further up toward the Mediterranean.
Right.
So
well,
I guess
yeah.
when they
It sounds
left
like everybody's got like their very own opinion on
Sukkot.
those places.
wherever Etham was, and however they went. Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, this is just a commentary, so it's
Yeah.
nothing really, I mean, it's a dictionary. So
it's the Fawcett Bible Dictionary.
Fawcett Bible Dictionary, named after Farrah Fawcett, as far as I know.
That's pretty sad.
Spelled wrong there for that.
Like her hair.
Mom.
She's the one that made it popular, I think.
Okay, so this is, if you count the number of
Like
stops,
golden retrievers for-
there are 42 stops.
It's like really
Okay.
wavy.
42 stops in the wilderness. Name some of them: Mara, Bitter, Elim,
Elam.
Palms,
Yam Suf,
Yam Suf,
What?
Wilderness of Sin,
Wilderness of Sin.
Dafka,
Don't confuse Wilderness of Sin with Wilderness of Sin.
Sin,
Sin. Or even TZ, Sin.
Yeah. Alush.
Dafka, Alush. I will need bread.
What is the last one there? How do you say that?
Rephidim,
Rephidim.
Rephidim, resting places. According to the Targum, it's their hands were Raphim, neglectful of the words of the Torah. The site of an unprovoked attack by who?
Amalek.
Where's our groggers?
I thought that was Haman.
Yeah, but Haman is a descendant of Amalek.
We're not supposed to even remember the name of Amalek. How are we
Who?
saying it?
What?
You know, sometimes
Remember Amalek, but remember not to remember Amalek.
I bet Yasser Arafat was an Amalekite.
I think Biden is.
Wilderness of Sinai.
Of
Shiny. Shiny.
That's a
Sinai.
French thing. Oh.
Sinet.
Chasserot.
Sinu is moon in Babylonian, so maybe a wilderness of, it may be, Sinai may be related to the moon. Kibrot Ha'atava, graves of lust. What happened there?
Is that the Midianite women?
No.
Nope.
Graves of, oh, Could it be when they had the meat of the bird in their mouth?
Yes, the President Bush's vice president,
Yes.
That's
What's his name? Shaney?
Daniel Quayle.
Dan.
Oh, Dan
Daniel
Quayle.
thinking
Sorry.
of the other.
Chatzerot means
Yeah.
settlement. Ritma, valley of broom brushes, or the place of many juniper trees, possibly smoldering. So you see some odd things here. Rimon Peretz,
Pomegranates.
pomegranates of the breach. Livna, whiteness. Risa, dew, a worm or heap of ruins. Multiple choices there.
That's a lot of variety
Mhm.
there.
It might be, but asterisk says, we're not really sure what this means. Why don't you say that?
You know, if they, it's just, how you say that one?
Kahalata. Kahalata.
Oh, that's a cuss word.
Is that a root canal?
Not quite.
Did you get
Mount Shafer, or the Mount of, guess what? Might be sapphire, which would translate, right? Harada, fear, fearful, or fright.
Machalot?
Machalot, assemblies.
Machalot?
Machalot,
Takat?
tachat, under, in place of, underneath, or below. There's a phrase you may have heard, a Hebrew phrase, Mashiach tachat. Ever heard that phrase before?
Yeah. I don't know what it means. I've heard it.
Mashiach tachat would be a way of saying the anti-Messiah.
So is that a way of saying the anti-Messiah? Whoa.
The instead of Messiah. The root word kind of means underneath, but
Mm.
it's not someone who is opposed to the Messiah as much as someone who is a replacement for the Messiah, a false Messiah in that sense. Mashiach tachat.
Like a usurper or something.
Yes, someone who's claiming to be the right one, but he's not.
Or Kokba. Yeah, a lot of help. He looked.
Terach,
Abraham's dead.
Abe's dad. Mitzgah, sweetness or place of
All right,
sweetness.
did you say Mitka? Or
Mitzgah?
Mitzka?
Mitgah.
Mitka.
Mitzgah. Hashmona, fatness. Mozarot, bonds or bands.
Sons of twisting.
Bnei Yacham is, I think it's somewhere else it's listed as wise sons. Sons of twisting is one view of that. Chor Hagidgad is the hole or cavern of the cleft. Yot Bata, goodness, brooks of water. Abrona, passage or ford, where there is from a bar to cross over, as the root word for Hebrew. Etzion Gever, the backbone of a giant or a man. Gever is the kind of the word for strong man. Or Tower of the Rooster.
Tower of the Rooster?
Well, Rooster?
Mr. Cogburn?
No, that's John Wayne.
Oh.
Rooster is the rooster.
Crier?
Crier and rooster are the same word. Gever is that word, or strong man.
Ah, Etzel Geber, so it could be the crier.
It could be.
Hear ye, hear ye.
I don't think that's what he did. I think he came out and blew a horn. Toot, toot. I think they said they found
Deer was one of them.
the actual place. They found some writing on a stone. I guess. It
So
would've been
Etzion
an
Gever
alchemy.
developing silversmith.
What does that got to do with it?
Paul Revere, silversmith. He's a silversmith.
I thought he was a raider.
Those and the Raiders, not Paul Revere,
Oh.
no Raider. Paul Revere and the Raiders,
Sorry.
That was
Which
his
is-
descendants.
which
Oh,
is
there
a
you go.
football team out of Las Vegas.
Did he ride to the North Tower?
Anyways, Mom. Kadesh, you recognize that word, set apart.
Mhm.
Mount Hor, Har Hor, mount upon the mountain. Salmona, gloomy. Narrow, a place of thorns or squalid. Punon, distracted. It's the modern city that is Feinan, Jordan, where there's some burning serpent scent. Obot, holes dug for water. Iyeh Ha'avarim,
Heaps.
Dibon Gad, wasting, pining, washing. That's where the Moabite stone was found.
Wasting.
Almon Diblatama, concealing the 2 cakes of figs. And mountains of Avarim before Nebo, related to the Hebrew word for prophet, Navi, which is far-seeing. There's also a Babylonian deity by the name of Nebo. You see it in the name like Nebuchadnezzar. Plains of Moab by the Jordan.
We're not at 42 yet.
Nope, getting close, very close. Plains of Moab. Moab is from father. You recognize that term? Who's a Moabite? Or who are the Moabites descended from?
Lot's sons
Lot's sons, yeah.
by his daughter.
Jericho was there, a scene of Canaanite moon worship. Beit Ha-Yashmot, house of the desolation, and Abel Shittim, meadow of the acacias, or whatever Shittim is translated as. You can see across the, looking, I'm going to go back to here, kind of looking at, is one more? It's not really good. This is the mountains of Avarim before Nebo, but looking across the valley, you can see Israel across the valley, but it's in the haze. Rabbis teach about the journeys as basically the 42 stops are essentially the example of our personal journeys, and that it's metaphorical for our own journey as well. From leaving the birth canal to the many years of our life we spend wandering the desert, sometimes listening to the voice, often rebelling and making mistakes to the point of our own death, entering into the promised land.
There's some truth into that.
Our life may be analyzed in terms of these 42 journeys. It's possible to identify each person's journey through life for the 42 stages of the journey described in Numbers 33. So it is a teaching about it, and certainly you can't really prove it by Torah, but there's probably some experiential evidence for that, I guess.
I think there's a little truth into what the rabbi was saying there.
Some bit in that. This is from Brad Scott. The number 42, the advent of the seed. Matthew reveals to us that there were 42 generations between Abraham and Messiah. We certainly know from the scripture that the Messiah is the seed of the woman, but the same seed is also consistently identified with Abraham and Isaac. The seed is the Messiah, according to Galatians 3:16. Melpsy noted that 42 is repeatedly associated with the second coming of Messiah. You see that in several different times. 42 is also, of course, the number of months of time times and half a time. 30 is 42.
42 months, okay.
Maybe interesting to know that the number 42 occurs 14 times in the scriptures, which again, 42 and 14 kind of go together as numbers.
14, 14, 14. David. 42. Interesting.
This is from a rabbinic source, Torah Spring. The portion alludes to all the major exiles children of Israel were destined to undergo in their history. Initial letters of Elei Maaseh bin Yisrael, or the Elei starts with the letter Aleph, which is also the first letter of Edom or Rome. Rome was euphemistically called Edom, and is termed our current exile. The Mem from Mitzrayim, the Beit from Babel, and the Yod from Greece. But to this I would say, which exile is not listed here?
The one in the Syrian.
The Assyrian exile is not listed here at all.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to figure out how he gets Edom and Rome, current exile, okay. Because it should have been Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and then Rome.
well, I was thinking of the letters. Elei, Maaseh,
Yeah.
bin Yisrael. Aleph, Mem, Beit, Yod.
Aleph, Mem, Bet, Yod.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But no, they don't have the Assyrian in there.
Nope. Which is still ongoing. The verse also alludes to our redemption, specifically the initials Elei, Maaseh, Aleph, Mem, which points to several pairs of redeemers, Aharon and Moshe, Esther and Mordecai, and Eliyahu and Moshiach. So kind of like that last part of it anyway.
Mhm.
According to the goings forth, we see that in 33:2, the phrase Elah Masem,
Yeah.
and it's the Motzahem, their goings forth, alludes to the future goings forth of the children of Israel, our future redemption. The placement of Maasim before their journeys, before Lamosim, according to their goings forth, alludes to the fact that our constant travels in exile hasten the eventual going forth. Unless one lose faith in redemption because of our suffering, Moshe mentioned that Bnei Israel already went forth from Egypt. Surely then we will be redeemed again. Again, this from a
Wow.
rabbinic source.
Cats. Shlomo Cats.
Yep.
Where have I heard that name?
I can't say because I don't know.
Well, this Jewish name, it's probably been, I've heard it several times.
Well,
It's like
I
Philistine.
want to say there was a guy, I believe his name was Katz. He was in Israel. He was a rabbi that some liked him and some did not. He was more into the Messiah kind of deal, but not the
Different-
Messiah.
I don't think it's this guy.
No.
I don't think so. Could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Hmm.
All right, so that's all I have on the Torah. What questions or comments did you want to make on the Torah portion that we've talked about before we go to, okay, just 2 slides I have on, it's just one aspect of the Gospel of Luke that we looked at. Any?
Well, when it talked about the inheritance of the land
Mm-hmm.
and how Zelophehad's daughters needed to marry within the tribe to keep the inheritance
Mm-hmm.
in that tribe. I've often wondered, what did it matter? It should have just stayed in the tribe anyway. So whoever they married would come over to the tribe and be of that tribe.
No, because
It would
he is of a different tribe. If he's of a different
Woman
tribe,
goes to the man's tribe.
Ah, there you go. But that said, anybody in that tribe would have had bigger land because your daddy didn't have any sons, so we're going to get his stuff.
I'm not tracking what you're saying. Because in this case, what they're saying is,
It stays inside the
Zelophehad's
tribe.
daughters
Yeah.
inherit.
Right.
Oh, this rule applies only if you're inheriting, if you are the one to inherit. And it really, so if you're not going to inherit,
So it would go to her sons. Okay,
I'm
watch.
saying that Zelophehad's daughters can marry anyone they want to as long as it's in the tribe,
Right.
so that the inheritance of their father doesn't go to a different tribe.
Exactly. But that said, within that tribe, let's say there's 40 of us in the tribe. We each got an acre, right? But 3 people had daughters and no sons. So those 3 people within the tribe, their daughters marry someone else within the tribe. So now instead of 1 acre each, they each get 2 acres.
I think are you saying it like that could make like a family monopoly or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think it's talking about individually owned land. I think it's tribally owned.
That's what I was thinking.
So Naboth's field was part of the tribe because Ahab was part of his tribe, right?
Well, there were
So he
lots
really
within
didn't
those
take his
tribes.
land. It was all in the tribe.
It just had to stay in the tribe, not necessarily in the same family unit.
Right,
Of that
because you
tribe.
can't, you're not saying marry your brother.
I know that. That's not
You
what
don't
I'm
have a
saying.
brother. If you had a brother, you can inherit it. So what?
That's true. But this, never mind.
All right, go to Luke. So in Luke chapter 12, there are a number of word plays. I'm just going to talk about a couple of them here. I found it to be interesting. If you look in your Bibles in Luke 12, verse 11.
Okay, got it.
Well, one of the interesting things from Luke 12, verse 11 is in the Greek text, it says something like answer, I think is the term. It'll teach you how to answer, or tell you how to answer.
You want me to read it?
Read it, please. Thank you.
Now, when they bring you to the synagogues and magistrates and authorities, do not worry about how or what you should answer or what you should say.
Yeah. So The Aramaic text, first of all, has some alliteration going on here. If you read it in sequence from top right, it's la, which translates to not, tatspun, do be anxious about, up, let's say I may have the wrong one, apkana, I may have the wrong order there.
Apkana?
Apkana, icon, it should be icon, it should be icon, not apkana.
Okay, Akana?
Akana, tapkun, should depart. Then the second last word on the going across is rucha,
Rucha.
which is breath. Then the word awe, which is or, mana.
No.
We recognize that word from a cognate for Hebrew, right?
Manna.
Manna. What is it? Then tamrun, you should say.
Tatspan, Tapkun,
So-
and Tamrun.
So the it's there's you have tapkun, tatspun, tapkun, and tamrun, kind of all
Yeah.
alliteration there going on. There's also a Aramaic idiom. The Aramaic idiom there is how your breath should depart. Now, in this, when I read it in this Aramaic text, wherever it is, it translated it literally. But the figurative, the idiom, would be how to compose your speech. That's the Aramaic idiom for, how your breath should depart is a idiom for how to compose your speech, or as the Greek says, answer. It's not quite the same, but that's where it goes. To speak properly would be a way to say it. So there is that Aramaic idiom that's embedded in this that you don't see from the Greek text. But then you get to the next verse. Now, the key and the interesting thing on the next verse here is the rucha. So the beginning of verse 12 follows verse 11, which says rucha ger de kucha. Rucha ger de kucha. And the first three words are translated there in 4 words for the set apart spirit. Will teach you at that moment what you ought to say. In verse 12.
It's funny because they say, obviously for the Ruach, or the Holy Spirit will teach you in that very hour what you should say.
Well, at the moment, at the hour, I'm sure those are the same kind of idea. But what I'm saying though, is the connection that you don't see from the Greek text, you do see from the Aramaic text. It says, don't rely on your own rucha. The rucha de kudsha will teach you what to say. It's the Aramaic wordplay phrase there on the word rucha. Example, Aramaic wordplay not seen from the Greek text. All right, and that's all I have, except for questions from the dog. They're saying, we're tired, it's time to go home.
They look tired. They look quite content. Belly rub.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, what are your questions about anything we've discussed?
Nothing. We already discussed it.
Then, Shavuot Tov.
Shavuot.